Welcome to the National REIC Podcast with myself, John Zwirzina, and Jeff Green. How you doing today, Jeff?
Life is good.
Today we have Than Merrill. Than is one of the foremost real estate investors and educators in the country, founder of CT Homes and FortuneBuilders.com. He's nationally recognized expert in real estate investing, real estate education, entrepreneurship, and marketing, sought-after speaker. Born in Fresno, California, and then attended Yale University, where he also played football after graduating, and then was drafted into the NFL, played with the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After football, Than discovered he could be as passionate about real estate. Without further ado, Than Merrill.
Hey, thanks for having me on, John and Jeff. Great to be with you guys today.
Yeah, great having you.
Welcome, Than. It's an honor. It really is.
So tell us a little about how you got started in real estate business.
Yeah, sure. Like probably many people listening to the podcast, at the time I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, I should say, looking for just an opportunity that and a career path that I thought I'd enjoy. After playing football, I had started a restaurant, a Mexican restaurant of all things. And if you saw me, I'm definitely not Mexican, and I had no prior restaurant experience. I will say, starting that business, my very first business, which was that Mexican restaurant, was a tremendous learning experience. Started out as something I was investing in passively, and when I was done playing, found myself working in very actively, and I was working 60, 70-hour weeks, and just didn't have a passion for that business. Although I learned a lot, we had some good weeks, we had some bad weeks. It was during that time that I started getting educated. I started reading books, going to seminars, going to different investment clubs, just kind of expanding my educational base around real estate. And I realized a couple things about it. One, it's definitely a people-driven business, and that's something that appealed to me. Right. The ability, the ability to control your own schedule really appealed to me. And I had a goal in college that after college I would never write a resume, and that was one of the goals that I had set for myself. Didn't know how I was going to do it, but I always had the desire just to run my own business. So started doing it on the side. Started buying rental properties and buying properties that we were fixing and developing in New Haven, Connecticut is where I started the business in 2003, 2004. And my business partner, Paul, and I, longtime friend, we started buying small single-family and small multifamily properties, redeveloping and reselling them. And didn't know if I was going to love it. It just figured, hey, this is something that could potentially be good financially. And as I got more and more involved, I realized that I really had a passion for it. It's a very creative business. You can always learn, you can always grow, you can always expand. And since then we've grown, a very successful company. We've been doing it now for I guess, 14 years now in total, and built a very successful business. So something that I've absolutely loved.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let me ask you something there, Than. What does your real estate investing business look like today? I mean, when I was getting started, I didn't even know what a market cycle was. And if you don't know what a market cycle is, you got problems, because you just don't know, when to hold it, when to fold it. So what does your real estate investing business look like today?
Yeah. So great question. When we started in a very flat market, and then the market started heating up, and then the market reached basically kind of a breaking point in 2007, 2008. And obviously everyone knows what happened to the real estate market cycles. Our business has been our core business has been very much the same since 2004. We focus mainly on residential and small multifamily properties. And we focus, CT Homes is the name of my investment company. And we focus on basically acquiring distressed properties, renovating those properties, and then reselling those properties. So with that company, I have a couple different real estate companies, but with that particular company, We now have 15 individuals who work in the company. So we have 4 people who do acquisitions. We have 3 project managers. We have an office manager. We have a property sales manager. So, the company overall is very lean, and we handle quite a bit of volume. We work on anywhere from 25 to 40 projects at a time. That's about what our business can handle. So we'll have generally around 20 to 25 under construction, 5 that we may have just closed on, 5 to 10 that are on the market actively being sold. And we do everything from townhomes to condos to single family to multifamily properties. We'll do some new construction. We'll redevelop some of those residential types of properties as well. So that's our CT Homes business. Now, my business partners and I also invest in commercial real estate outside of CT Homes. And so we have a lot of properties that we've acquired over the years that we hold for cash flow purposes and for passive income purposes. And so that's been a great thing. And we also have a real estate lending company as well that we started a couple of years ago. So we're very active, love it, operate in all niches. The majority of our career has been built on fixing, redeveloping, and reselling properties. And we in 2009, we actually opened a second office in San Diego, California. I grew up in California. It was a great time to come into the San Diego market because the market had just crashed. Right. And obviously, other reasons as well. San Diego, if you've ever been here, I call it heaven on earth. It's
Never
like
been.
the same it's like the same temperature every day, and it's just a little slice of heaven. So that's where I live now, and that's where the majority of investing we do is in San Diego County.
Do you still do stuff where you first started, I guess, as well, though, or not so much?
Yeah, and so when we moved out here, we operated both in both markets for about 2 years, but we moved the majority of our intellectual capital or the people working in the company out to San Diego. So we still hold assets out there. We still have a property management side out there where they manage our rentals, but we don't actively flip in New Haven, Connecticut anymore. We've moved all of our operations to San Diego.
Gotcha. All right. So just like in South Florida, it's getting harder and harder to find deals that make sense. So how do you find your deals today?
Yeah. The majority of properties, probably about 60% of our acquisitions that happen on a weekly, monthly basis are through brokers, through agents. We've done historically a very good job of building relationships with agents who get a lot of listings in this area. So we work the MLS pretty actively. I mean, the MLS is 80% of properties in most markets are going to hit the MLS. So for every real estate investor, the MLS is going to be part of your acquisition strategy. You'll probably buy more properties on the MLS than you will through any other, direct response marketing strategy. And that's been something that we've done very, very well. We also get a lot of referrals from agents on properties before they hit the market, pocket listings. That's the goal of when you go into a market, you want to build a reputation of being the go-to investor or one of a handful of go-to investors in the market that agents can count on for properties that would fit a investment model, right? Something that is distressed or needs work or redevelopment, or you have the ability to expand. We buy a lot of properties. It might be 1,500 square feet, and then we'll double the square footage. We'll add a second story. We'll expand the footprint of the house, and that really works, especially in San Diego because it's a higher price point market. And our average purchase is around $450,000, and we're selling properties in the $700,000, $800,000 dollar value. So in higher price point markets, there's a lot of opportunities to buy properties, double the square footage, and you can make the numbers work, and it can be a tremendous competitive advantage for you. So that's probably our main acquisition strategy. We also do a lot of direct mail to different lists, pre-foreclosure lists, probate lists have been very consistent for us. Out-of-state owner lists have been very consistent for us over the years, where we buy properties every single month using direct mail. And then online lead generation is also a strategy that we use. And obviously that's a pretty wide category. There's a lot of different strategies within that, but we get a lot of good quality leads from our online marketing as well. And the great thing about online marketing is it's less competitive than the MLS. You don't have necessarily as many investors competing. And a lot of times, people are starting their search of when they're looking to sell a property. Typically, they're thinking, I'm going to list with an agent, or I'm going to sell for sale by owner. But a lot of times, they'll start their research long before they ever list the property. So if you do online marketing, you can capture someone very early on in the life cycle who's just feeling out what they should do to potentially sell their property. So those are our main campaigns. We have a lot of other campaigns that we've run over the years that bring in a smaller percentage of our volume, but those are kind of the main staples of what we do right now.
Yeah, I guess you have to do a little bit of everything, not just put all your eggs in one basket.
Very true. You never want your real estate business dependent on one lead source, because it'd be kind of like having a table with one leg. I always say you got to have at least 4 campaigns that are bringing in consistent opportunities to evaluate. And that's really a stable, long-term sustainable real estate business is built on having at least 4 different marketing channels that bring in your leads.
Well, that was what I was going to ask also, because your core business has not really changed, but how is it that over the long term that it's been so sustainable?
That's a great question. And first of all, I think when people are getting started, you really want to understand cycles. You want to understand and study the history of real estate markets. I think it's very important, because in any real estate market, you can make money. However, your business model has to adapt. For example, when we start out in the business, I'm very risk averse. So I said to myself, okay, this is good. The market's flat when we started. If the market starts heating up, what's the best, what are the best strategies? And then if the market starts to cool down or starts to decline, how do you adapt your business model? And so here's a couple rules of thumb that, please hear me, because I've studied, the history of real estate markets pretty in depth. And the riskiest area of when a market starts to decline, the riskiest area to invest, in my opinion, is luxury properties. Those are the quickest, they'll have the biggest decline in value. You typically want to be in workforce housing, whether you're buying rentals or whether you're fixing and flipping properties. You want to be where the majority of buyers always are, which is in workforce housing or median income price point properties.
Right.
So the other thing is long-term developments in a downturn are also where the risk is. So as soon as the market started to decline in 2007, 2008, the first thing we did is we basically cut ties with all of our high-end projects. We said, all right, let's finish these as quickly as possible. Let's get them sold. And let's not take on any projects that are longer than a year when it comes to a development cycle. And so, because that's where you're not as impacted if you're buying below market value and you're putting the property back on the market, like in residential, in 3 months. Yeah, the market may have declined, but it's not like it's a year and a half. In a year and a half, There can be a significant decline in value, but in 3 months, there isn't. The other thing is the safest area of real estate, in my opinion, will always be conservative residential apartment buildings and single-family properties that cash flow. Where people got in trouble in 2007, 2008 is they were buying and there wasn't positive cash flow. They were buying with the idea that it would hopefully appreciate.
Yeah,
they're speculating, and it's okay to buy and redevelop and resell and have an element of speculation in your business model. But if that's your entire business model, that's not smart. And so, for example, we had a lot of rentals that we had acquired, going into 2007, 2008 that we just held. They all cash flowed. We got the tax benefits, depreciation. We had the equity buildup because the tenant was paying down the debt. The value of the property declined, but we weren't forced to sell. So we just sat on those. We continued to collect the cash flow, knowing that the market's going to recover at some point. The value of the property is going to recover, but that's just on paper. Whereas if you bought something maybe in Las Vegas where you were upside down on payments and there was no cash flow, that's risky. So what we started doing is we started just adapting our business model on the downside. That's why we've been able to have success in both a flat, up, and down market. We just adjusted our business model. The other reason we've been able to have long-term sustainable success is we built a systems-dependent business, and this is key. I read a book called The Emyth many years ago by Michael Gerber, and I've had the pleasure since then of co-writing another book with Michael Gerber called The Emyth Real Estate Investor. But the original Emyth, the Emyth Revisited, I read in 2004, and it really shaped the philosophy with which I approach the real estate investing business. And the Emyth, it doesn't per se have anything to do with real estate, but it has everything to do with running a successful small business. And so what we did, my business partners and I, is every time we did something, a real estate business is made up of a series of different business processes. You have marketing processes, you have acquisition and underwriting and due diligence processes, you have financing processes, you have, it's just a bunch of processes working together. You have construction management, you have property management, you have property sales. And so every time we would do something successfully, we would document it. We would document everything. We would put together an execution checklist. We would put together, every time we made a mistake or we had something go wrong, we'd say, hey, how can we avoid that mistake on a future transaction? What did we learn? And how can we reduce the amount of hours that it takes to complete these transactions? And so we started putting, great software into place. We started creating very good checklists. We started creating what I call standard operating procedures. So when we would execute something, let's say we did a great direct mail campaign, well, we put a standard operating procedure together. We'd figure out how to get that campaign executed. And then ultimately we'd want to transition from us doing the work to having somebody else do the work for us.
Right.
And put someone in that position to execute, what we were spending all our time on. So we went from being technicians, wearing all the hats, to being managers of other individuals who were executing the work. And then eventually, when the company was profitable enough, we hired a management team to manage the business. And so we now have a president of the company who oversees the entire business. And that's allowed us to go out there and build other businesses. And that's everything that I learned in the Emyth, was to build a systems-dependent business. And that's allowed us to create predictable results. We still have the ability to find good deals. We still have the ability because, we're very efficient. The day we close on a property is the day we start, renovating it. There isn't a, 2-week gap while we're trying to figure everything out and before the project ever starts. So we created these competitive advantages in our business through these systems that we've developed, refined, and tweaked. It hasn't been a perfect process. There's been a lot of learning lessons. We've made a lot of mistakes, but it's been very successful, and that's what allows us to continue to this day.
Wow, that's a lot of golden nuggets right there, I tell you. It's amazing about time management. I do a lot of rehabs myself here in Palm Beach, and it's interesting. I say changing neighborhoods one house at a time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. There's a. Go ahead, John.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead,
I was just gonna say you're absolutely right. The benefits of a lot of people they initially look at the real estate business because they're very financially driven, right? There's a lot of financial upside, and when you get into it, you realize the thing that I love the most about it is one, you can really create your own team. You know, I work with friends, family members, and people that, you know, I've known for years, and really create your own community. And then an even bigger thing is there's so many benefits. You know, you get to meet so many unique people when you're out there renovating properties, and you get to meet people who work at the city. You get to create connections with CPAs, attorneys. It's an amazing thing. And there's a lot of other investment opportunities that come because of those relationships you develop. So you're exactly right, Jeff.
Right.
Real estate is a relationship business. You
Absolutely.
do business with who you want to do business with.
Absolutely right.
We talked up until here about residential. So I know you make commercial real estate investments as well, right?
Sure. Yep. We focus, you know, our primary driver of our wealth over the years has been fixing, redeveloping residential small multifamily properties. That's been what's generated the capital that we now invest in commercial properties. And I think that's a good model for if you're just getting started out there, kind of listening. Maybe you're going to your first real estate investment club meeting, which I definitely advocate. Go out there, make sure you get educated, you know, join a mentoring program, a coaching program, go to different seminars, and learn from as many people as you can, because everyone has unique insights. And, you know, there's not anybody in real estate who knows every aspect of real estate. There's so many niches. There's residential, and within residential, there's like 10 different niches, 10 different ways. And, you know, you could wholesale, you could focus on pre-foreclosures. Probate might be a great opportunity. You could do lease options. You could focus on rehabbing. You could focus on small single-family rental properties. And then when you look at the commercial side of the business, there's even more niches: self-storage, retail, office, apartments. So what have we focused on? Well, we've made our money in residential, but where we've invested our money over the years has been in commercial. So my goal has always been to own assets that I hold for 5, 7, 10, 15 years. I don't necessarily like to sell commercial properties because they can produce great cash flow. And if you look at it long term, I own a lot of single family rentals, which can be a great strategy as well. And apartment buildings, you're going to get a scale. So what do we like? We like investing in apartment buildings, and we like it on both the passive side and the active side. And I want to draw a distinction here, because there's probably a lot of people who are listening to this podcast who are saying, oh, well, I don't know if I want to fix and flip properties. And you might be a working professional, you might earn good income, and you want to get your money working for you in real estate, but you don't necessarily have the time to go out there and be the operator or the sponsor or the one running the deals.
Right.
Well, the great thing about real estate is there's a lot of ways you can get involved. And so initially, what I would advocate is that you find some really good commercial property operators and invest into their deals. So there's a lot of people who syndicate properties who have really great returns and have really great track records, and you can invest passively and earn a great rate of return in what I consider to be the safest area of commercial real estate. People will always need a place to live, and so we focus on a lot of passive investments in workforce housing apartment projects with different people that have been through our coaching program, some other outside investors. And then on top of that, we also operate and own commercial properties. Now, we own office, retail. We own properties in both the U.S. and Ireland, and we've made some unique investments in student housing. We have a couple hotel developments we've invested in. But ultimately, I think the best niche, this is just my opinion, and it really comes down to your specialty and where your education is. But I think small, mid-size, larger apartment investments is going to be your best long-term bang for your buck, because I think it has the least amount of risk of any commercial investment you make, right? If there's a downturn, that's typically the niche or the area of commercial real estate that is the least impacted, because people will always need a place to live. in that, and even more so in like the B class apartment space, workforce housing. So that's a lot of what we've done with the money that we've made fixing and flipping residential properties over the years has gone into commercial investments.
Gotcha.
Well, let me ask you something. I do a lot of hard money on the majority of the deals, and I sleep really good with a lot of money in the bank. That's why I borrow the hard money. Maybe we could talk about private money a little bit versus hard money, and then we go into Grand Coast Capital and why you started that company.
Yeah. So lending is another. It's not passive, but it's probably more passive than any other investment strategy out there. I don't want you to think that there isn't an education. You need to be educated if you're going to be lending money. Well, when we started I didn't have a lot of capital when I got started buying and selling real estate. I had like $30,000 in the bank. I didn't even have enough money to finance my first deal. And so I had to borrow from day one. And our two primary financing strategies our first couple of years were raising private money from private money lenders and hard money. And there's a lot of similarities. Hard money lenders are basically professionalized, I like to call it, private money lenders. Your typical private money lender is just somebody who has money sitting on the sideline, and you create a relationship with them, and they end up funding one of your projects. And they end up generally getting paid monthly. These are generally short-term loans. You might borrow the money for a year or however long it takes to complete the project. And typically private money lenders are earning somewhere between 8 and 12%. Hard money lenders basically have created a business of private money lending. And so a hard money lender generally has $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million. They're generally localized, meaning they loan in a couple markets or maybe one state, maybe two states. You find very few hard money lenders that loan, in all 50 states. And sometimes it's a small group of 3 or 4 investors who bring their funds together to start this company. And what they do is they basically provide the financing for typically fix and flip investors, people that are doing 3-month, 6-month, 12-month, rehab projects, redevelopment projects, and reselling them. So we were a borrower of hard money lenders, and that's how we learned the business. We had some really good relationships. We were borrowing millions of dollars when we got started. And the money, was a little pricier, obviously, than bank financing or a private money. But the reality is hard money lenders are more well capitalized. So you're going to one person as opposed to, putting together 2 or 3 private individuals. So it just makes it a lot easier. Well, as we were borrowing, I was studying the business because I realized, man, lending is a pretty good business. You spend 3-4 hours underwriting the deal. You make sure your loan to value is conservative. And then you just collect monthly payments until the project's done. So you spend some time looking at the borrower. You spend some time looking at the deal. All the things that, a lot of the knowledge we had already acquired by redeveloping properties ourselves. And so my business partner and I started doing it. And we did about 300 loans and ourselves. And we said, you know what, we need to really professionalize and institutionalize this investment. So we brought on a really intelligent partner, and we started a firm, an investment firm that lends, and we do equity investments as well. So we started 2 funds. The name of the company is Grand Coast Capital, and our website is grandcoastcapital.com. And what we do is Fund 1 is primarily debt. So we make loans to residential real estate investors and commercial real estate investors around the country. And we loan in the majority of states. And so we started with a couple $1 million of our own capital that's in the fund. And then we raised capital as well. So we have people who are accredited investors who invest into the fund. And then what we do is we manage the transaction. So we underwrite, we service, and we evaluate deals across country. And then Fund 2 is both debt and equity. So it's 50% of the fund is allocated to debt, and the other 50% we make equity investments into commercial property, small balance loans, small balance commercial loans, and then we also, target commercial properties that are, typically $1 million to $15 million purchase price, and that's what the second fund targets. So it's been a really good business. I love it. It's obviously real estate based, so I'm very familiar with it because I've been on the other side of the table many, many times, borrowing from private money lenders and hard money lenders, and so yeah, that's the other company that we run as well.
All right.
Well, let me ask you something. I know you're so successful, and people are sitting out there listening, and they're going, wow, I want to do that one day. I really want to do that, but it seems so far away, and it doesn't seem like it's going to work for me because of risk threshold. Do you remember your first rehab?
I sure do.
I know you're doing so many different things now. Maybe walk us through that and the apprehensions you may have had, because my wife went to some of my rehabs and she's like, if I had control of this, you'd have never bought that house, but I made a lot of money.
Yeah. I'll never forget our very first project. I bought it at auction, and I was in the state of Connecticut, and my business partner and I did not have enough. We had enough money for what was required to bring to the auction. And Connecticut, auctions are very different in every state. In Connecticut, you actually have a little bit of time to close the transaction because it's got to get approved by the judge, first of all, and then you have typically about 30 days to close. Well, and a lot of states aren't like that. Some states you have to close literally within 24, 48 hours, depends on where you're buying at auction. So we had a little bit of time, but we had no freaking clue where we were going to get the capital from. And so we knew, the property we bought just over $70,000. It was a cheap property, $70,000, required about $50,000 in work. And I had been to a couple classes, real estate investing classes, but I was by no means a sophisticated real estate investor. And so we were just figuring out as we go, and we started raising the money from friends and family. We put some of the funds on credit cards to close the transaction. And we were literally funding the rehab as we went. And so when we needed $5,000, $10,000, we had to figure out where that money was going to come from. And so we were doing a lot of the work on the project ourselves. We spent way too much time on the property, and it took us 6 months from start to finish. And we made 27 grand. And it was funny because we were so thrilled that we made 27 grand. But then when we really sat down and thought about it, we said, man, if we don't spend time to get more educated, we had gotten educated, but we really didn't have a lot of hours of education at that point. And, we had been to probably 4 different classes at that point. And it was at that point I said, we need to get coaching. We need to get mentor. We need to figure out what the hell we're going to do, because there's 2 of us. And, if each project takes us 6 months, we're not going to make a lot of money doing this. And we better change our business model. And it was at that point that I had also read the Emyth, and that's when it really inspired me to build a systems dependent business, not a me dependent business. And that's when we started making changes, and we started just seeking out education. And every single week I set aside a few hours a week to just focus on my education, and I've been doing that ever since. And that's really if I were to give people one single piece of advice, real estate and your success, if you look at the most successful investors, they just have spent more hours educating themselves. They've developed weekly and monthly routines where they're expanding their knowledge base. And it's not one class, it's not 2 classes, it's not a couple coaching calls, it's not a sit-down lunch with, a person who knows the business, and all of a sudden you're off and running. Right. This is a business that think of it like an athlete. An athlete doesn't make it to the NBA by going to lunch and picking the brain of a coach, or by doing 1 or 2 or 3 workouts, or by participating in a camp for 3 days, and all of a sudden the athlete gets to the professional level by dedicating daily and weekly to their craft. that's the same thing that it takes when it comes to real estate. I always say it's a 12 to 24 month journey when you're starting to build that educational base, but it never stops. Like to this day, I still go to classes, I still read, I still consider myself to be a student, and I'm still learning. And and if you take that approach, which most smart people who understand anything will get it, that's what's going to make you successful as a real estate investor.
I feel like this is a classroom myself. I've learned so much. My goodness.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I appreciate
do agree
that.
with you on the education. You really have to be educated and learn as much as you possibly can. And that's why I go to all the different clubs. I'm a club junkie because you just don't know who you're going to meet. I mean, I met John a while back. He has a master's in marketing. It's a great partner. I work with my two sons. We were talking about family. I got two adult sons, and they're in the business. Right. And, you know, it's great to have family and friends. And I just want to stress that part of it because it really does work if you can make it work.
Absolutely. No, you guys.
Well, and you still work
right.
with your friend Paul, I guess. You're like a friend from childhood, I guess, or, you know.
Yeah. So my two business partners, Paul Estasian, he and I grew up together, friends in 7th grade, and my other business partner, Conrad. Yeah, 7th grade. So we've been friends a long time, too long sometimes. But we've also my other business partner I met at Yale. We played football together. His name's Conrad Sapilnikoff, and we've been together a long time. It's worked, and I've very much enjoyed both the friendship and the business that we've been able to do.
Well, how did you get picked up and get noticed to be on all those TV shows?
Yeah, so we one of the producers had reached out to a couple different hard money lenders in our area looking for very active investors who were doing multiple rehabs at a time. And the reason the show picked us up is they wanted to shoot 2-3 episodes at the same time. So they needed an investment group that basically was doing a lot of volume. So they came up and filmed us one day. I can't say I'm an expert in how to get a TV show because they found us and reached out to us, and it just kind of fell in our lap. But yeah, it was great. I mean, it was great for notoriety, publicity. It takes a lot of time. Definitely takes a lot of time. It'll definitely take a lot of time away from your business because, you know, we very rarely go to the projects. You know, we have good systems in place. So we don't have to necessarily be on the job site at all times. Right. And, you know, when you shoot a TV show, they expect you to be there a lot. Right. So, you know, it was a little bit of a change of pace, but it was definitely fun and something that, you know, I definitely
so it probably slowed your business down more than, I guess.
It definitely did because you had to film so much. You had to be there and be on site. And it's funny, you don't make your money as an investor by being on site. You know, you can hire a project manager or a good GC to manage that aspect of the. You make your money.
Yeah, it's like you got to figure out what's your time
exactly.
Work. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, actually, John and I are going to rehab. We got a great deal on an intercoastal property in Delray, and under $600,000 on the intercoastal.
Yeah, right on
the
water.
And we were so happy to get that locked up, and we are going to renovate that. And we just hope the market is good to us, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah. Good deal. So, good deal. Well, let us know how the outcome for sure.
Oh, it's going to be nice.
You would definitely, I guess, if you're ever in the area, I guess, in Palm Beach, you know, you're always welcome to Jeff's club, Palm Beach Rehab. But I know you don't do speaking engagements anymore, really. But I see your commercials all the time still, though, for events.
Oh, yeah.
I guess you do nationwide. Seems like
sure. Well,
if I'm on TV.
Yeah, if I'm ever in the area, I'll definitely want to meet up with you guys for sure.
Well, this has been a wealth of knowledge, and just kind of every minute of it, I'm just learning stuff. And I will get that book, Emyth, and you know, we could use all the help we can get because we have rehabbed a lot of properties. But at the same time, the smarter you get, the more you're going to make, and the less you're going to have stress.
I got that book written down right here in front of me on my notes. So. All right.
All right. You got anything else, John?
No, that's it. Tune in next time. Thanks, Dan, for your time. And thanks, Jeff. And everybody have a good day. And I hope everybody learned something from this. Tune in next week.
And thank you so much, Than, for your time.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thanks everyone who's out there listening. Go out there and create an amazing business in real estate. You'll love it.
And I guess one more thing, real quick, Green Coast Capital, they lend in Florida by any chance?
Yeah, sure do. Yeah, so grandcoastcapital.com for those of you who are interested. And then my website is fortunebuilders.com if you want more information or learn a little bit more about some of the things we do. So appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, let us know how we can help you. We'd be glad to help you, and you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks,
have
guys.
a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.